Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the CR Sports Podcast. And Garrett, we do this once a week pretty much, and we're recapping last week where I was a Yankees fan, obviously, and unfortunately, after being down 2-0, what I said needed to happen did not happen after, they went down 3-0, and I said that's not a spot you can be in as the New York Yankees, and turned out for the Dodgers to win it. And we can recap a little bit what happened there in one of the worst innings of baseball you'll ever see. But in the words of Lonnell Robinson, 2989, I believe, one of the commenters on our last post. Yeah, you were right, Lonnell. Okay. You were right. So congrats if you're a Yankees fan, but you are a Yankees fan. So you're not really congrats. Congrats on being right over me. And yeah, you win, Lonnell.
Yeah, it was a sort of a tale of two events in game four with the Yankees starting out hot with that 5-0 lead and then just a complete collapse. Michael, we saw it all postseason from their base running, but the defense had been better compared to the regular season. And then in that inning, just an absolute collapse. First, the blunder in center field from Judge, and then Volpe, maybe trying to make a hero play thrown in the dirt. Chisholm couldn't pick it. And then, I mean, I guess it goes on Garrett Cole for not getting over and covering first base. Maybe would have liked to see a little more effort out of Rizzo to get to the bag himself. But ever since that moment, the Dodgers just took over. And then they were able to take the lead, I believe, in the top of the eighth inning and hold on as Walker Buehler came on for the save and ignited LA as they won their eighth World Series title.
Yeah, so that's in the world of sports news, Garrett. That's last week's news. And we'll move on kind of quickly, but I mean I will just rehash kind of what you said. It was it was kind of right there in front of the Yankees, to be honest with you. You look at what happened in game one overall in the series. Game one, you point to it right away. The Dodgers were the team that were able to come out, get a clutch hit when they needed it most. And, taking game one, I think, was really a huge momentum shifter in this series, obviously, with a walk-off home run by Freddie Freeman. And then you go to game two, and the Yankees have opportunities late. Didn't feel like they were really in the game. Dodgers win. But if New York were to win game one, they split in LA, you'd be feeling a lot more confident going back to New York. And then what happens is in game three, it's not that good. The Yankees can't win the game that they absolutely needed. And then game four, Anthony Volpe becomes the hero. You're thinking, can this charge a comeback a little bit? Can they now be a little bit more resurgent with their offense? Can they start hitting like the way they were? Volpe got the home run. Judge had a home run. It was everyone started hitting, right? So then Judge had another home run. Judge had a home run in game five. Stanton had a home run. Chisholm had a home run. They're up 5-0. And then the fifth inning happens, and Garrett Cole is absolutely dealing. He allows 5 runs, 5 unearned runs, by the way, not a single one earned. So it was a combination of Judge not making a catch that he would make. I'd say he'd make it a thousand out of 1,001 times. It's just like it feels like that's something that is just a freak thing that happened in this game. And then really the the Volpe kind of error throwing to Chisholm at third, just not getting an out, and it just kind of that's when momentum shifted back to the Dodgers. So briefly before the fifth inning, you're thinking, all right, they're going to go back to LA 3-2. Yankees have won two in a row. All the pressure's kind of on LA now. They got to close this out because if they get to a game seven, it'd be uncharted territory. Actually, a game six was uncharted territory too. There's never been a team in Major League Baseball, and this still stands, that goes down 3-0 in the World Series to then go force at least even a game six. So that was what was on the table for the Yankees, and then a complete collapse. And hey, they took the lead back. That's something that I didn't really see coming. They took the lead back, and then Tommy Kahnle didn't have it, and he walked up three guys and put Luke Weaver in a tough situation. He had to get outs and force 2 runs to score, and that was that. And so the Dodgers are the champions of baseball. They kind of get that 2020 COVID season, COVID World Series off their backs because people have been kind of saying, that's not really a real win for a while. Now they got a real win this year. They were a dominant team, and they were the best team in baseball, and they do deserve it. But it wasn't that far away from being a completely different series. The Yankees win game one. You're looking at this thing completely differently.
Yeah, you mentioned the Dodgers at 2020 World Series, same as it was, with the Lakers and the NBA. People didn't really want to give them full credit. It was only a 60 game season, which in baseball is more than 100 games less. But like you mentioned, they were the best team in the regular season. They were the best team in the playoffs. They had the power hitting, they had situational hitting. They had guys like Tommy Edman, Gavin Lux, guys who in the regular season weren't making as much of a name step up in big moments. And their best player, Shohei Ohtani, wasn't even really at the forefront. he had that shoulder injury. I think it was game 3 where his shoulder popped out, or no, it was game 2 in LA.
Yeah.
So he wasn't really the same player, and hopefully we get to see him back fully healthy next year and on the mound as well. But despite all the injuries the Dodgers had, especially to their starting rotation, they were able to, win in 5 over the Yankees in what at times felt like a more competitive series than just 5 games. But when the Yankees bats got hot, the Dodgers were able to combat that, and then their bullpen was able to take over in the later stretches of Game 5. So credit to the Dodgers and really Dave Roberts. He's been getting a lot of smoke for all the early exits the Dodgers have had in the playoffs because the NL West has sort of been theirs over the past 10 seasons. And I know the Giants won it a couple of years ago, but it's mainly been the Dodgers controlling the National League West and to finally play a full regular season and then become the World Series champions. It's a very good feeling in LA. And for someone like Shohei Ohtani, who spends the first, whatever it was, 5, 6 years of his career on the other side of LA with the Angels, comes over in his first season and is already a world champion.
Yeah, they're looking at it, they're saying, well, we got big things to come still, and they're a team that's going to be right there. And it'll be very interesting to see now what happens with the Yankees and Juan Soto because he's the biggest free agent that you'll see in a while. And we'll dive into this. We got all off season to talk about it, but that's just something to note, and that's what everybody's really talking about surrounding the Yankees. It will be a completely different team for the Yankees, and the Dodgers are going to try to keep their key pieces on their side.
Yeah,
So,
I did see a Photoshop picture of Soto in an Orioles uniform. So
well,
maybe the new ownership group in Baltimore will pull off some sort of a heist and get Juan to come to Baltimore.
yeah, well, they'd have to spend a lot of money, Garrett, and that's not something that they're a big fan of doing a lot of the time. Maybe you don't even think they're going to re-sign Corbin Burns, do you?
It's different with David Rubenstein now that he's getting old. All the chips are in the middle of the table. I think we're gonna go out and get some guys this offseason.
Well, we'll see. Okay, so that's the Orioles news that everyone was desperate to hear. Now I guess we go to the NFL, which happened yesterday. Monday Night Football is tonight between the Chiefs and the Buccaneers. But yeah, I honestly I could rant about the NFL. I'm not. It's not encapsulating me this year, and that's probably just as a Cowboys fan, not being super into it and just kind of being disappointed with overall how the team looks, how the coaches look, how the ownership looks, how your star players look. But it feels like a weird year still. It really does. Like I don't know like who the best teams are. I know there are a few really good teams. You point at the Ravens who look phenomenal, the Lions who look great, the Bills who've had ups and downs. They come off with a nice win with a 60-yard field goal from Tyler Bass. Who would have thought? He's had a rough season. And then you point at the Chiefs who are undefeated, and you're like, well, this team is they're very good. But then the Vikings who were 5-0, they've now lost three, or they've won last night, excuse me, but they lost two in a row. They won against the Colts. They're not that great. So the Vikings are 6-2. I don't know. It's a lot of weird things that I'm thinking about, Garrett, but it's hard to figure out exactly what this NFL season is. And I guess you could say the Eagles had a nice win yesterday as well, but I still don't think they're going to be very competitive in the end.
No, I definitely agree. Maybe it's because we're at college or something different, but something does just feel a little odd about this NFL season. Doesn't feel like there's that many great teams. It feels like there's a lot of mid guys uh, on the team, and it doesn't really feel like there's those super strong teams that we're used to seeing, and especially in the NFC, there's not. I guess you could point to the Lions, maybe the Packers, but the Lions looked pretty dominant
Yeah.
last year, or excuse me, yesterday in that win. So it's it's just odd. Maybe Thanksgiving and the Christmas time, those games will elevate the NFL season a little bit, but as of right now, it feels like, it's just an average NFL season, not much specials happening. And yeah, there's an undefeated team left, but it's the Chiefs and they're not doing it in the most exciting way.
Yeah, it feels like a mundane season, Garrett. Really, how you kind of said it, and uh, I don't know. I'm looking at like I feel like being like get off my lawn guy, kind of like old man on the street, old man Michael. But this NFL, I feel like 10 years ago, you look at it, you go, the quality of play was a lot higher than it is right now than what we're seeing across the league. I think that there aren't, like, you could point to, look at all these quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, even Eli Manning, who was seen as bad, would be seen as a very good quarterback in this league right now. Eli Manning was seen as bad during the regular season, and now he's seen as, you know, back then. Right now, he'd be seen as a very good quarterback, franchise quarterback. Yeah, Tony Romo was seen as like, oh, Tony Romo's not that good. Tony Romo would be seen as a very good quarterback right now. You guys had guys like Drew Brees, obviously Tom Brady. Uh, I don't know. I just felt like the quality of play, especially at the quarterback position, was a lot higher. You can point to guys throughout the league now. Lamar Jackson's doing something special, but there were guys like Michael Vick then too, like and who wasn't even seen like as like a true like superstar that's going to lead his team to a Super Bowl. But it just seems different to me. And I don't when Sam Darnold has a team that is 6-2, I don't know. And that's not against Sam Darnold, but it is kind of against Sam Darnold in the sense of are you really at the caliber of a quarterback that's a 6-2 in the NFL? Because if you look at a team that's 6-2 in the NFL 10 years ago, that's a damn good team. That's a very good team. So it feels like there's a big difference and shift of records matching the level of play. That's what I've noticed, especially with this NFL season. I think there's a lot of teams who have inflated records, and that's something that we've seen, and it's very odd.
Yeah, and like a perfect example of that would be the Broncos
Yeah.
sitting at 5-3, and then they go into Baltimore yesterday, and the Ravens just looked like such a better football team. But the two teams came in with the same record in that game, both sitting at 5-3. So I think the Ravens are definitely one of the NFL's premier teams, and I agree with you on the Eagles. I don't think this is a great team, but they're doing enough to win games, and right now they're 6-2.
I'll tell you
I
who is
think
a
I
good team,
think the
though.
Commanders have looked a lot
There you
better though,
go.
seven and
Yeah.
two, and we saw the a couple days ago a report from ESPN saying guys want to go to Washington, which is you haven't heard that in a while with the trade deadline coming up tomorrow. It's usually guys are wanting to leave the Commanders, but they've built something really special. Credit to Dan Quinn, the culture he's built. Cliff Kingsbury with that offense, and then obviously Jaden Daniels, guys stepping up like Terry McLaurin, even Austin Eckler, the veteran, helping out a lot. They've looked really good, and right now it's looking like a two-horse race in the division between them and the Eagles. And to me, there's just a lot of mid in the NFL right now. Like, what do you do with teams like the Bears and the Cardinals and the Rams and the Seahawks and the Colts at 4-5? Anthony Richardson just quitting last week before a big third down play. That was really weird. And then, a team like the Saints, they started off so hot. They've lost seven straight now. Like, are the Chargers, do you really think the Chargers are that good? Because they're 5-3. I
I don't
just
know.
agree with you. It feels like there's a lot of inflated wins because there's just not that many great teams.
Yeah, it's very odd, and I think the best position that a team is in the NFL is in Washington. And I go, you're crediting Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury. I'm crediting Josh Harris, the Harris Group, the new ownership group in Washington. They went from Dan Snyder, probably one of the most dumpster fire owners of an organization like that they had out maybe outside of Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, but they were worse than Dallas, let's be honest. They were really terrible with all the things that were going on, and he didn't care about it. There was no winning culture there at all. They actually had a loser culture, a losing culture, and everything like that, and it just wasn't impressive what was going on in Washington. But if I were a fan of a team that is Washington, if I was a fan of Washington, there's no other team that I'd rather be in position wise than Washington right now. They have a rookie quarterback who is balling out, is a stud, won the Heisman in college, and it looks like it's translating to the NFL. He looks poised, he looks calm, doesn't seem like anything really rattles him. And you saw that last week with the Hail Mary, or now 2 weeks ago with the Hail Mary. And he just wins. That's what you're kind of noticing. It's like maybe he won't have the craziest stats of all time, but this guy is winning and he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He plays winning football. He makes big plays when he has to. And I think Washington really is the team in the NFC, or honestly, the NFL, Garrett, that is this new coming team. They feel like a team that deserves their record. Their record speaks to who they are. That's a young team who's found it. And I'm drawing serious ties to the Cowboys team in 2016 under rookie Dak Prescott. That's kind of what it feels like with Jaden Daniels. He's having that kind of a season. Rookie Dak was phenomenal with the Cowboys, and I'm drawing like distinct parallels to the poise and comfortability that he shows in the pocket, and really then just extending the play with his legs. It feels a lot like the 2016 Cowboys team that if you remember, they were like 10-1 for at like a period of time. They had like one loss for a while. I know the Commanders have too, but um, it's very cool to see in Washington if you were a fan of them.
Yeah, and I know the Texans came on sort of late last year, but he is drawing glimpses for me at least to the way CJ Stroud was playing. He wasn't turning the ball over. He had, a confidence which all you don't see all the time from a rookie. It just felt like he was a 10-year veteran, the way he was able to lead game-winning drives and stay calm and composed. So I think those teams are sort of similar, but like you mentioned, the Commanders have earned their record up to this point, and right now it's looking like them and the Lions. Maybe you throw in the Eagles.
Oh,
If you want to, I mean, the Falcons are up there as well. The 49ers haven't looked great. The NFC feels sort of wide open, and are we really going to say it's the Lions to lose? That sentence feels weird coming out of my mouth. But you made the statement that if you're an NFL fan, you want to be a Commanders fan right now. I think the only team I would take over them is probably the Chiefs, just
yeah.
because Patrick Mahomes is still young. Andy Reid's an amazing coach, and all they've built up there. But you're looking at next week, the Steelers travel to Washington to play the Commanders, a 6-2 team taking on a 7-2 team. I think we're going to learn a lot more about those teams next week.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if the Steelers are one of those teams with that overinflated record that I'm talking about. They have wins where it just they don't look that good, but it's like with Russell Wilson playing the way that he is now, that's something interesting that's going on with them in Pittsburgh. That will be an interesting game. And then, just to briefly touch on the garbage organization that is the Dallas Cowboys. They lost another game in Atlanta against the Falcons this past week. And really just everything that I was talking about last time on this podcast, Garrett, is the same exact thing. They are the worst coach team. The amount of pre-snap penalties that you saw was absurd. Their defense sometimes plays okay, and then they just get ran through. They're awful. And I think Mike McCarthy seriously is on the hot seat. If Dennis Allen is getting fired for the Saints and Robert Saleh got fired for the Jets, tell me why Mike McCarthy shouldn't get fired for the Cowboys. I know why he shouldn't, because Jerry Jones is incompetent and a terrible owner, but it's kind of insane what's going on where you got these coaches that are getting fired midseason. This doesn't happen a lot in the NFL, and you could probably point to Dallas as being the most disappointing team, just about with the Jets and the Saints, probably way more than the Saints. Maybe the Jets are a little similar to them disappointment wise, but yeah, why are they getting fired and he shouldn't? It's because Jerry Jones goes out there in the press conference after the game and says, "Oh, we like our guys. I still believe in this team could win a Super Bowl." I go, "Jerry, what are you watching that I'm not watching? This team can win a Super Bowl." And he goes, "That's likewise with the coaches." That's the problem with the Cowboys, and I don't know why he wouldn't get fired if all these other coaches around the NFL are getting fired.
Yeah, it's, certainly an interesting time in the NFL. Usually we don't see this many coaches getting fired into the season, and we're halfway through the season. Robert
Right.
Saleh was 5 games in or so.
Yeah.
So it's a new time in the NFL. Organizations becoming more impatient. But if you'll let me go back to the Steelers real quick, I just want to touch on how this really feels like a different team because of Russell Wilson, because of the explosiveness there is on offense. We're finally not usually what do you see in Pittsburgh? You see them grind out wins and they get to 10-7 or 9-8. It's like
That's what
we're
it felt
ready.
like with Fields.
We snuck in the playoffs, but we're not doing anything in the playoffs. We're not going anywhere. We don't have the offensive capability to put up points against teams like the Bills, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. But this team feels different. It feels like we have that same identity, but we have a little more explosiveness. George Pickens looks a lot happier. He's getting the ball. Najee Harris has 3 straight games of over 100 yards. Russell Wilson's doing a great job distributing the ball, and he's protecting it, and he's making winning plays. I think we're seeing a lot more of Seattle Russell Wilson than we are Denver. And as a Steelers fan, that's what you hoped for. And he's sort of, you saw Justin Fields those first 5 games or so. It felt like, he had a grip on the offense and he was doing what old Steelers quarterbacks the past few years were doing, trying not to turn it over, throwing for 150 yards, making 1 or 2 key plays. And Russell Wilson's taking that to the next level. And I think that's why you should be taking the Steelers seriously.
That's a good case for them. I think Russell Wilson does look more like the older Russell Wilson that you've seen in the past, but um, you'll learn a lot in that game next week. I think you're right with that one, Garrett.
Yeah, it'll be, an environment. It's going to be rocking in Washington, something that you usually don't see at FedEx Field. But it's going to be interesting to learn for both teams. And as the NFL season keeps going on as a whole, I guess we'll try to learn some more about some of these other teams sitting at 5-4, 6-3, who we don't really think are all that great, but they can only beat who they play.
That's a good point. Well, we don't have much time left on this episode. We're in a little time constraint right now, but briefly, college basketball does start tonight, so that'll be fun. I am going to the Syracuse Lemoyne game, and I'm excited. I know that your season for you yourself starts in just over a week. So that's exciting as well. And then you got a big game tonight. Was it Baylor Gonzaga?
Baylor Gonzaga at 11:30, and Cooper Flag makes his debut as well as Maine travels to Cameron Indoor.
That's interesting too because he came from Maine.
Yeah,
But
and his brother Ace just committed to Maine.
yeah, so that's I didn't realize that. But also just touching on it, Duke beat Arizona State in an exhibition game. They scored
56.
over 100 and Arizona State had under 50 points, I believe, right, Garrett?
They won by 56.
They won by 56. So that was concerning for me to see just throughout the being a fan of college basketball, especially a fan of Syracuse, because they might be one of the best teams we've seen in a long time. But guess who's still in Connecticut? Danny Hurley. So that's what I have to point to. And who's won the back-to-back national championships? Danny Hurley and the UConn Huskies. So that's that's something. But yeah, Duke might be scary, everybody.
Yeah, and that was
Bobby
that was
Hurt.
after Arizona State had won a different exhibition game. So
What'd you say?
I said that was after Arizona State had won a different exhibition game. It wasn't against a Power Five team, but still 103 to 47 against a Power Five school if you're Duke. Pretty impressive.
And that's Bobby Hurley, an ex-Duke basketball player going back to Cameron Indoor. He's not going to try to get absolutely pounded like they did. So that is what happened. And all eyes on Duke, I'd say, just after that exhibition game. That kind of surprised me, and I'm sure it surprised you too, Garrett.
Yeah, I think Duke should be the favorite coming into the season, not only to win the ACC, but to win it all. But like you mentioned, there's a team in UConn who's won back to back. Kansas is the number one ranked team right now as we go into the season.
They always
So
do that with Kansas, feels like. I don't know.
Kansas's roster is pretty loaded, but we're going to learn a lot, and we always learn more as we get into the second or third week, and then the Thanksgiving week tournaments where teams start playing other ranked teams. But you can look for Baylor and Gonzaga tonight if you're looking for a ranked matchup to start college basketball.
If you're looking for a preview of a ranked team to play tonight, go look at Syracuse. All eyes on Syracuse Lemoyne. Throw out the record books in a Syracuse showdown. But I do think the Syracuse team is going to be very good. I like the addition of Eddie Lampkin down below, and I think Jaquan Carlos at the top, the offshore transfer playing point guard for them is going to be a big addition. With then JJ Starling getting to play the two, which he's more comfortable playing. So that's something that all eyes will be on for Syracuse, and then obviously Donnie Freeman, the five-star recruit, top 10 McDonald's All-American commit this year for them, the freshman. So it'll be fun. Just letting you know, I think Syracuse is going to be in the dance again. So just going to point that out, put that out there before the season starts, Garrett.
Yeah, it'll be a great year of college basketball, and the best team debuts on Wednesday when they take on Stonehill.
Yeah, right.
The Fighting Irish. So in the Micah Shrewsbury's second year, I think we're going to see a big turnaround, and I think we're going to see their name called on Selection Sunday.
We'll see about that. Lots to look forward to for sports seasons, even though baseball is unfortunately and fortunately over after a rough World Series for myself. But yeah, Linnell, who commented, you win on the Yankees. That's the end of this episode. That's how we're going to conclude it for CR Sports. Congrats, Linnell. You win. That's it. Dodgers are your world champions. College basketball starts tonight. Monday Night Football, Chiefs, Bucks. And that's the CR Sports podcast. What else, Garrett?
Yeah, that's about all there is to it. College basketball back in full swing. College football just about a month or so away from, finding out who's going to be playing in the college football playoff, the first ever 12 team format. And the NFL's heating up. Lots to be excited about if you're a sports fan.
Where else would you rather be than here, the CR Sports Podcast? Thanks for listening, everybody, and stay tuned for more future episodes.